Welcome to the Word for 2021. Today we're in 1 Samuel chapter 15. As you read this chapter, God gives Saul a very specific mission. In verse 2, God declares, "I will punish the Amalekites." God was going to use Israel to bring about judgment upon the Amalekites. He was going to simply use Saul and the Israelites as tools to bring about divine judgment. But rather than fulfilling what God had commanded in verses 7 through 9, Saul and the army, they disobey God. It says that they were literally unwilling to completely destroy and do all that God had commanded. In arrogance, we even see Saul setting up a monument to honor himself. Well, when Samuel meets up with Saul, Saul comes before Samuel and he proudly declares, "I have carried out the Lord's instructions." Then Samuel asked the question, "Well then what is this lowing of cattle that I hear?" That started a whole list of excuses. Saul, he started to pass the blame. He started to rationalize sin. He was even self-deceived by saying, "I have fulfilled what the Lord has commanded." In verse 22, Samuel replies, "Does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as obeying the voice of the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice." Henry Blackaby, devotional writer, cuts right to the heart of the matter when he writes, "Obedience to God's commands come from the heart. When you begin struggling to obey God, that is a clear indication that your heart has shifted away from Him. Genuine love for God leads to wholehearted obedience." In John chapter 14, verse 15, Jesus said, "If you love me, you will obey me." Now Saul had a problem. It wasn't that he did not know God's will, it was that he didn't want to do it. Saul was more in love with himself than he was with God. Saul was more concerned about acceptance of other people. Saul was more concerned about what other people thought and what they said than what God thought and what God would say. Saul wanted to honor himself more than God. Saul's actions and his attitudes, it literally revealed the condition of his heart and his love for the Lord. Another devotional writer, Leah DePaschal, I love what she says, and it's a great way to wrap up this devotional. She wrote, "More than anything in this world, we must seek God first and make our relationship with Him our number one priority. When we do, our decisions and actions will begin to flow from a heart that is genuinely devoted to Him." Another way to say it is that our love for our Heavenly Father will be evidenced by our obedience to His Word and to His will. Thank you for joining the Word for 2021.